The problem with desert mornings is that they're too honest. Dust hides nothing in first light, and every crack in a pot or a heart looks bigger than it did the night before. Mira Solis lifted the studio's front shutters, blinking at the peach-coloured sky over Arroyo Largo. The art colony, 30 adobe cottages, one sun-bleached cafe, and an old train depot converted to galleries, was shaking off its quiet. She could already hear the clang of Carver Joe's metal sculptures and smell the sagebrush roasting on the breeze. Only 3 days until the annual Desert Bloom Art Festival, and Mira's corner booth was still half empty. She specialized in revival pieces, battered vessels purchased at estate sales, stripped and reglazed until they glowed. Her reputation balanced on two truths. She had steady hands, and she never hurried clay. Festival or no festival, the kilns dictated her pace. She unlocked the storeroom and knelt beside a cardboard crate marked Marquez Ranch, Lot 14. It had arrived yesterday, one of the last shipments from a century-old cattle, spread now being sold off in parcels to Sunbelt retirees. Mira tugged packing straw aside and drew out a stout vase, about 10 inches tall, bulbous, glazed in a mottled turquoise, as if entire oceans had evaporated on its surface. Someone had worked mica into the slip. It glittered when she turned it. "Old girl, where did you come from?" she murmured. Beneath the glaze, faint bas relief prickled her palm, stylized roadrunners racing around the belly. The signature mark at the base was smudged, unreadable. One chip marred the rim. Mira frowned, dabbed a fingertip of vinegar onto the spot, and tested the surrounding edge. The tiniest flake lifted away. A second fleck loosened beside it, and with a soft crack a coin-sized shard popped free. Oh, drat! Where the chip had been, a cavity opened into the vase's interior wall. Double-walled pottery, an old trick for cooling water. Something glinted inside the hollow. Mira angled the vase under the window light, shook it gently, and a tight roll of parchment slid into her palm. She uncurled it across her work table. Faded ink lines formed a simple topographic sketch. Sun-shaped compass, mazes like tiered cakes, and an X tucked into a narrow canyon labelled Santa Elara. Across the bottom, in the same hand, someone had written, "Guard well what Earth refuses to bury." A map. To the Santa Elara mine. The name lived in every campfire tale within 100 miles. Some said it was a silver lode, others turquoise or fire opal. All agreed no claim had ever been recorded, which made it catnip to prospectors and charlatans. Mira had dismissed the legend as desert gossip. Yet the parchment smelled of aged beeswax and smoke, not a craft store novelty. She pressed the map flat under a slab of bisque tile and exhaled. Excitement buzzed, then worry. Santa Elara sat on federal land. Even if the mine existed, a treasure hunt could get someone killed or arrested. Mira slid the parchment into a zip bag and tucked it under a stack of Glazed catalogues. First, she had pots to finish. Mysteries would wait. But mysteries, like desert mornings, refused to stay quiet. At noon, the Sunspike Cafe filled with artists taking refuge from the heat. Mira snagged her favorite booth beneath a rickety ceiling fan. Clara Peña, weaver extraordinaire, and Mira's neighbor, arrived carrying 2 iced hibiscus teas. "Festival panic?" Clara asked, sliding one glass over. "Moderate," Mira answered. "I'm triaging crackpots." She hesitated, glanced around. "I also found something strange." Clara's eyes lit. "Strange as in scorpion in the sandwich, or strange as in call the Smithsonian?" "Somewhere in between." Mira described the vase and parchment in hushed syllables. Clara, lover of riddles, leaned forward until her silver hoop earrings clanked the tabletop. "We have to show this to Olema Lynn," she declared. Olema, a potter turned unofficial historian, ran Arroyo Lago's minuscule museum. Mira nodded. "After the festival. I don't want rumours circling." "Too late," a voice drawled behind them. A tall man in a tailored linen jacket hovered by the booth, smile sharp enough to slice lime. "Gavin Blackthorne. I represent the West Wind Gallery in Santa Fe." He offered a business card emblazoned with a stylized raven. Mira took it politely. Gavin's arrival during festival week wasn't odd. Big city buyers swooped in every year, yet something about his presence made her shoulders crawl. "I couldn't help overhearing," he continued, eyes flicking between them. "Antique vases intrigue me. Might I visit your studio?" "Tomorrow," Mira said quickly. "I'm glazing today." "Perfect." Gavin's grin widened. "I'll bring my associate, Petra. She has a keen eye." When he left, Clara whispered, "Overhearing my cactus." He was snooping. Mira folded the card, mind racing. She'd been careless, speaking of parchment in public. But maybe Gavin was only an ambitious dealer. Back at the studio, she hid the map inside an old coffee tin labelled Broken Handles. No one would look there. Then she locked every door and returned to her wheel, letting wet clay push worry aside. Night brought quiet to Arroyo Lago, but the desert never truly sleeps. Around 2 a.m., Mira jerked awake to a clang echoing through the courtyard. She threw on sandals and rushed outside. The moon revealed her front door ajar, padlock snapped. Inside, shelves gaped where the turquoise vase had stood. Nothing else was disturbed, not even her cash box, a surgically precise theft. She called Sheriff Tom Reyes, whose jurisdiction covered the colony and 300 square miles of cactus. He arrived within minutes, coffee thermos in hand, dusting for prints. "Any enemies?" he asked. "Only termites," Mira said. She explained the map in a whisper. Tom's eyebrows shot up. "I'll run the gallery guy through our system," he promised. "You should stay with a friend tonight." Mira eyed the shattered lock. "I'm staying here, Tom. Someone wants a vase. They can't steal my whole studio." Tom sighed, gave her an extra padlock from his truck, and departed. By sunrise, desert wind carried grit that stung Mira's cheeks. The weather radio chirped with a warning: strong low-pressure front, possible sandstorm by evening. As she swept glass shards, Clara barreled in, red scarf flapping. "I heard on the police scanner," Clara blurted. "They took the vase." Mira nodded. "But not the map." "Then whoever broke in will keep poking. We have to move first." "Clara, the festival—" "Forget the festival. What if they dig up half the desert? We need to secure whatever's out there, especially if it's historically important." Clara grabbed Mira's jeep keys off a hook. "Let's scout the canyon before the storm hits." Mira stared at the spinning kiln gauge. Work or adventure? She remembered her abuela's saying, "Clay waits, people don't." With a resigned huff, she doused the kiln, retrieved the map, and followed Clara to the jeep. They left Arroyo Lago at 9, dusty highway unraveling toward Ghost Mesa. The map's compass pointed them along an old stagecoach trail, then south at a dry wash. Joshua trees bent like arthritic dancers under rising wind. 20 miles in, a black SUV appeared behind them, sleek rental plates. Mira's stomach knotted. "Gavin," Clara muttered. The SUV kept its distance, but when Mira braked at every fork, it braked. She accelerated, it matched. Finally, where the dirt road split, she cranked the wheel onto a narrower branch clogged with tumbleweed. The SUV barreled after them. "We need cover," Clara said, scanning the open landscape. Ahead, a rocky outcrop jutted like a half-buried ship. Mira steered behind it, engine coughing, and killed the ignition. The SUV roared past, dust plumes swirling. Gavin must assume they'd continued straight. They waited, hearts sinking with the ticking engine. Wind carried the faint keening of metal signs, a warning note threaded through hot air. Mira unfolded the map. The X lay 2 ridges east, foot travel now. She and Clara loaded backpacks with water, flashlights, and a coil of nylon rope Clara claimed was for macrame, but looked suspiciously like climbing gear. Quartz gravel crunched under their boots. The sky lost its cheerful blue, turning milky, then brassy. Wind gusts lifted skirts of sand around them. Mira pulled a bandana over her mouth. Every step felt like walking on marbles over a tilted floor. They reached the canyon mouth by noon, a narrow defile, walls rose 30 feet, striped ochre and violet. A hushed pocket world. The map showed a petroglyph of a lizard marking a side fissure. Mira scanned rock faces until she spotted the carving, weathered but distinct. Beside it, half concealed by prickly pear, lay a timber-shore opening descending into darkness. "The mine," Clara breathed. Footfalls scraped behind them. Gavin Blackthorne emerged, suit dusty, but smile intact. Petra, raven-haired, trailed with a compact pistol glinting in her hand. "Well done, ladies," Gavin said. "My phone's GPS tracker adored your little detour." He gestured. "Inside. Time is sand, and sand is slipping." Mira's pulse hammered. She considered bolting, but Petra cocked the firearm. The tunnel slanted downward, timber supports creaking. Old shafts can murder with a sigh, one rotten beam, a shower of rock. Sand hissed outside, intensifying. They would all be entombed if the storm funneled debris into the opening. 50 yards in, the passage widened into a chamber. Shafts branched like spokes from a hub. A heap of wooden crates occupied one corner, draped in spider silk dust. Gavin motioned. "Open them." Mira pried a lid. Inside sat ceramic jars wrapped in deerskin. She lifted one, heart thudding. Black-on-white geometry spiraled across its surface. Signature of 19th century Mogollon artisans. Museum pieces worth fortunes. "It's not silver," Gavin said, "but collectors pay more for beauty than for ore." Mira glared. "These belong to history, not to you." "History rarely writes receipts," Gavin answered coolly. A reverberating boom interrupted him, thunder, or an enormous wind gust slamming against canyon walls. Sandstorm, Mira realized. They had maybe minutes before the entrance choked. Gavin must have read her face. He snapped fingers at Petra. "Seal the crates, load them on the dolly." Petra holstered the pistol, but kept it visible. Mira's mind raced, eyes tracking a stack of buckled buckets near an abandoned work table. Dried clay. A plan sparked. "Gavin," she said, pitching her voice calm, "these pots are fragile. You jostle them on that rocky path, they'll shatter. Let me wrap them in slip clay. It dries fast in this heat, forms a protective shell." Gavin hesitated. Greed wrestled impatience. "How long?" 10 minutes, less than the storm," she lied. He nodded. "Quickly." Mira grabbed a bucket, added water from her canteen, and stirred until a thick paste formed. She smeared generous coats over each jar, humming as if focused. Secretly, she left small gaps at crate corners, like vents. Clara caught on, yanked burlap scraps from debris, weaving them into handles she knotted around each clay-wrapped jar. She winked at Mira. By the time Petra stacked the last crate onto the dolly, The entrance roared with wind. Sand whirled down the tunnel in stinging eddies. Gavin cursed. "We'll wait the worst of it," Petra advised, checking her phone barometer. Wind howled louder, rattling timbers. Dust blanketed lantern beams. Visibility shrank to arm's length. Mira seized the narrow moment. She leaned near Clara, whispered, "When I yell, duck left." Clara nodded. Mira lifted the bucket and flung the remaining slip toward Gavin. The viscous brew slapped his jacket, splattering his face. He staggered, blinded, cursing. Clara shoved the dolly sideways. In the chaos, Petra raised the pistol, but flying sand stung her eyes. A shot ricocheted into darkness. Mira and Clara ducked down the left-hand shaft, guided by faint airflow. Behind them, Gavin screamed as a support beam, rotted, loosened by vibration, groaned and collapsed. Tunnel rock dust billowed. They sprinted until the shaft dead-ended at a vertical ventilation chute wheezing air. Above, a metal ladder vanished upward. Mira's legs shook, but she climbed first, Clara close behind. 40 feet up, a rusted hatch opened onto the canyon rim. They emerged into an apocalypse of swirling bronze sand. Visibility, 10 feet. Wind ripped at clothes, hair, sanity. "Which way?" Clara shouted. Mira checked memory of the map. There had been a grain silo icon near the rim. She scanned through grit. A silhouette of stacked stones flickered due east. They staggered toward it, clinging to each other. The stone pile turned out to be the skeletal remains of a water tower from the 1920s mining camp. Beneath it, corrugated metal provided scant shelter. Mira pulled her phone. Miraculously, 1 bar. She texted Sheriff Tom a pin drop and single word, "Help." Then they waited, scarves across faces. Hours blurred into sand-coloured nothing. Wind gusts subsided by late afternoon, settling into eerie stillness. The world looked as if someone had replaced every colour with sepia. Footsteps crunched. Tom Reyes appeared, bandana over his nose, shotgun slung. 2 deputies followed. Mira's knees threatened to fold with relief. They guided the women back to the canyon rim, then descended a different slope to the mine's main entrance. Timbers had collapsed fully, sealing Gavin and Petra inside. The deputies called out, muffled coughs answered. Eventually, the pair crawled through a gap, dusty, furious, and handcuffed within seconds. Tom surveyed the scattered crates near the entrance, some broken open, revealing clay-covered jars. He raised a brow at Mira. "Care to explain?" Back at Arroyo Largo, over strong coffee and bandages, Mira and Clara recounted everything. Tom listened, jaw set. "So," he concluded, "you two lured thieves into a mine during a sandstorm and assaulted them with wet clay." "Technically, I enhanced their complexion," Mira said. Tom sighed. "The State Archaeological Office will need statements. Those vessels are priceless cultural artifacts." "Which is why they should go to the Acoma Museum," Mira insisted. Tom's nod told her it would. The festival arrived on schedule despite the storm's aftermath. Tourists strolled boardwalks, sun hats tied tight against residual wind. Mira's booth brimmed, not with antique pieces, but with a new series she'd thrown in the days following the ordeal. Small vases glazed the same shimmering turquoise as the Santa Ilara piece, each etched with roadrunners. Inside every vase she placed a rolled paper. Instead of maps to lost mines, visitors found handwritten quotes about art, courage, and the beauty of dust. Clara's woven tapestries framed the booth entrance, patterns echoing ancient spiral motifs from the jars they'd rescued. A placard stated that 50% of sales would support the Acoma Museum's pottery restoration wing. Near noon, Mira spotted Gavin Blackthorne across the fairgrounds, escorted by 2 uniformed officers. He paused, met her gaze, and offered a rueful half-bow before being ushered into a patrol car bound for federal court. Petra followed, lips thin. Mira exhaled, tension unwinding like clay on a wheel. Sheriff Tom ambled over, holding a paper cup of horchata. "Thought you'd like to know. Archaeologists dated the jars to 1870. They believe local miners hid them from collectors who were stripping pueblos back then. Looks like the desert kept them safer than any museum could." "Guard well what earth refuses to bury," Mira quoted. "Indeed." Tom glanced around her crowded stall. "You going to miss the excitement now that the case is closed?" Mira watched children spin kaleidoscopes of colour under Clara's textiles, felt the kiln-warm joy in her chest. "The desert has plenty of secrets left," she said. "But for now, I'm content shaping mud into something hopeful." He tipped his hat. "Good answer." That evening, Mira locked the studio, the world washed gold by sunset. A small remnant of the slip clay, now dried, still clung to her work boots, proof that art could be shield and sword. She placed fresh coils on the wheel, the hum of the motor matching her heartbeat, and began to throw a vessel wide enough to hold an entire horizon. Outside, the desert settled under starlight, honest as ever. And somewhere beneath layers of sand, the echoes of roadrunners still chased each other around a turquoise vase, guarding stories that waited for careful hands to listen.